Hey, everybody, welcome back. Really excited. I even changed my shirt for Pollyanna because,
I
she's
wore my money green.
okay. I see you with the money green. I see you. I have no theme, just other than it was cute and I wanted to change my clothes. Um, Listen, first of all, we'd be here all day if we ran through your bio, but let's say successful published author, entrepreneur, writer, and contributor to Forbes. Uh, all around boss lady, leads a mentorship, global mentorship organization. Y'all, like, please, I can't hear it, but I'm going to give a round of applause for Pauleanna Reid. Disclaimer, Pollyanna is also a good friend. So this conversation is going to go a little different than the other ones have. She's going to drag me, but actually most people have dragged me throughout this thing, so I feel like now we're all friends. How are you, P? How's it going?
I am so good. As you can see, I'm in a hotel room. So I'm running the streets of New York,
Of
trying to get
course.
that bag,
Of
meeting
course.
with clients, having a really great time.
But no one that knows you is surprised by this, to be wholly honest. Like, you should have a show called Where in the World is Pollyanna Reid, a la Carmen San Diego, because I blink and you're in another part of the planet doing exactly this. So the reason why I wanted to end the whole conference with you is because I feel like, based off of the comments and conversations that we've had both on socials, offline, you would encompass a good summary of everything that we've learned in terms of like planning and being real about your money mindset and
Mhm.
getting out of it and how to level up at work and all these other things. So let's get into it. What is your earliest memory with money?
I love that you asked me that question because our money story, the foundation of it starts during childhood, right? The things that we observe, the energy we feel. Um, I've been working since I could illegally at 13. I won't even put the store on blast, but I've been working I've been working as long as I can remember. Simply because I've always craved independence. I didn't want to ask mommy and daddy for an allowance. I didn't want permission to do my hair. I didn't want you know what I mean? I didn't want all of those I didn't want those limitations. So I've been working as long as I could. I've been hustling, always had some kind of side hustle. But as a family, my family has weathered tremendous storms. We've had money in abundance where we didn't have to look at price tags. And we've also gone without, where, I've gone to sleep to the sounds of my mother crying at night because she didn't know what bill she was going to skip. She didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. And so, what that has taught me is that if you never learn to understand money, you will always be a slave to it.
Y'all write that. Listen, I should have told y'all, have a pen and paper handy. Wait, if you're watching this, you get access to recording. Just pause it, write this down, put it on the IG, has a quotable, make sure you credit Pollyanna Reid and drop, like, she's gonna do this to y'all. Just yes.
FYI.
Absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. And I think, like you said, like, our money story does start so far beyond when we start to actually have it.
Mhm.
It's and we've talked about having to both unlearn the bad habits that our parents have had, and some of it is not their fault. It's, being thrown into a new financial system, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. And like your family has, you said, has seen abundance and has seen the complete opposite. So was money a topic of conversation in your household? Like, even though the fact that you didn't want an allowance, like, were they teaching you about savings and all those kind of things?
Absolutely not, because when you are two adults who came to this country with absolutely nothing, and you work your ass off, you're now in a place of comfort. You got the dream house, you have the dream pool, you have the three kids, right? You're not worried. You're not trying to teach your kids about anything. You're trying to like hold on to it, but you're also trying to enjoy it. And so, to be honest, to be very transparent, my memories include witnessing my parents live a luxurious life, but in the same regard, they thought money grew on trees. Like, they thought money grew on trees. And so when unfortunate incidents happened, life, layoffs, bad investments,
Mhm.
maybe the money team wasn't legit. When things happen, what do you think the result is, right? Like before you know it, everything changes. And so I've always kept that at the forefront of my mind, that everything changes in a moment's notice. And honestly, it could change for the good or it can change for the worse. So I'm just very aware of that as I move throughout the world and operate my own business.
Nice. So you mentioned earlier that like you've been a hustler, always just on the grind and like where's the next bag? So did you have a thought like, some kids like, I wanted to be an astronaut when I want to grow up, or I want to be a zoologist. Like, did you have it in your head like, oh, I never want to work for another human being, or I just want to be rich and wealthy? Like, what do you think that your early aspirations career wise were?
I wanted to be an erotic spoken word artist, to be honest. I thought I was going to be the next Eric Jerome Dickey. Don't judge me. So I mean, it was poetry. So I don't know if I wasn't really seeking wealth when I was a little girl. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be fulfilled. That was really important to me. As I got older and I started, navigating the corporate space, I most definitely identified my entrepreneurial skills very early. My father has owned several businesses growing up. And so I just knew that I had to exercise patience. I was really obsessed with studying the autobiographies of the world's most successful people. And one thing I realized is that they all started at zero. Like every great artist, entertainer, and entrepreneur was once an amateur. And so I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just did not know when it was going to be my turn.
Nice. I love that. So can you think of like a major financial decision you had to make early on in your life, whether it was like you moved out early or, getting your first credit card and then paying that first credit card bill?
Girl. Okay, let me set the scene for you. 2007. I feel like I'm just talking to a friend. 2017. I'm 30 years old. Okay. I'm an executive assistant to the president of a corporate retailer. I'm making $65,000 a year. The scene is me curled up in a ball on the bathroom floor in the office on the phone with a collections agent. The collections agent is trying to ask me for his money and I do not have it. And I am feeling distraught. I'm depressed. I'm anxious because I don't know how I got myself into this hole. I'm over $50,000 in debt. I have nothing to show for it. No house, not even a car. I don't have. There's no receipts. There's nothing. It's literally shopping. It's pretending. It's putting on a mask. It's all the BS. And so he said something to me that absolutely changed my life. He said, "Ma'am, you are way too young to be going through this. How did you get here? Why are you here?" And collections agents, they don't get personal by any means. They're just there to collect the money and move on with their lives. But he took 1 second to tap into that heart-centered place. And he said, "You are too young to be here. I wish you well, but I need you. I really would like for you to think about what you're doing." And that set my ass on fire. And my next steps, girl, I was so laser focused. I put pen to paper, and my next immediate steps were things like getting a board of advisors, an accountant, a bookkeeper, a financial advisor. So like curating my money team, people who are smarter than me. I was under the impression that only wealthy and only rich people had money teams, but no, someone like me who was at the time, I was regular schmegler degler. Now I'm that chick. But at the time, you know what I mean? I didn't think I had enough to even save, but I started small. And I started with $50 a month because that's all I could afford. And we created a roadmap and a plan. The second thing is I defined my goals. I was very, very clear on what kind of life I wanted, I identified my debt. We created a debt repayment plan. The other thing is I put systems in place. Now that could look like spreadsheets. That could look like automatic auto deposits into your savings and to pay down your debt. That could look like scheduling monthly check-ins with your money team. And then the last thing I did was I put myself on a financial diet. Now, oftentimes when our friends invite us out or we have, we may feel like we have certain obligations, we don't want to say, "Girl, I can't afford it right now." Right. So I rephrased it in terms of a money diet, financial diet, to let people know that this is not the season. I have to say no to certain things because I have certain dreams, aspirations in place. And it was really, really hard because I went from, $1,000 bags with only a few dollars in it, right? Right. To now being in a space where I now have to say no to every dinner, every outing, club, all the things, all the things.
All the care band costumes and oh
Yes, all
Lord.
the $1,000 weaves, girl. I had
Listen,
to say no to everything. And it was, it sucked, but short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
yeah. And I think that that's one of the key things that people aren't really willing to do. And I get it, because you work really hard for your money. You want to see some fruits of your labor, especially if you're an employee. You look at the gross and you look at the net and then you cry. You're like, I worked all these hours and it only led to X, but there has to be balance, right? And
Mhm.
so for you, because you had this kind of hole to dig yourself out of, is why you had to put yourself on such a strict diet. But if you have a better plan and you have more balance in your life, and it's not just all, we're not saying don't buy the $1,000 bag. We're saying make sure that your bills are paid before you buy said $1,000
Make sure
bag.
you have somewhere to live.
I mean, please. We have a rent bank, but we're not out here paying whole mortgages for a year.
Mhm.
So absolutely. So you talk about your journey financially on socials a lot, which I really admire and appreciate. And Black
Mhm.
people, a Black community, and women in particular are usually shy to do so. So why, what made you start doing that, and why is it so important for you to be open on socials about that?
Because every time I've been open and when I normalize the conversation around how much money I make, how much that I'm in, the things that I'm doing around wealth, it accelerates my growth 10 times. Because when you are vulnerable, you will then attract other women who share that same trait, right? And also, too, I really don't think that when you are fronting, when you are pretending, I don't think God, the universe, whoever you believe in, I don't think you block your blessings, right? Like, I don't think that you're able to allow overflow into your life when you pretend. So to me, it doesn't even make sense. The other thing I'll say is I'm a part of several group chats, right? And when I say accelerates my growth, I'll give you an example. So I'm a part of a few group chats, one with other fellow speakers, one with other fellow ghostwriters and creative entrepreneurs, and one with just a few of my friends. And every time I have a speaking engagement, I'll look at the roster. If I notice a few faces, I'll connect us, and we will talk about, girl, how much are you making for this event? Right? Like
Mm.
we'll have conversation around how much we're making. Are you getting transportation? Are you getting a flight? Are you getting car service? So we are all negotiating on the same wavelength, right? The other thing is, people might ask, how are you a part of these group chats? Where are you finding your tribe? Some of these group chats started with me and one other person,
Mm.
and then slowly expanded as we built trust amongst each other. It doesn't necessarily have to be a large community. You can start your own group chat. You know what I mean? I shared a an Instagram post talking about the things we talk about in my group chat with other Black women, and I had over 4,000 shares on that Instagram post. And it told me something. It told me that people crave connection. It told me that people want to normalize these conversations, and maybe they're scared. I have people asking if they can enter my group chat. The answer is no. Well, I mean, there's a level of trust there, right? Like, if we're all
Yes.
being transparent. So, like, it's not that I'm trying to block anyone, but at the same time, I want to encourage people. You can look to your left and look to your right. Your peer groups, that's your group chat right there. And you should be the one to wave your hands and say, hey, let's start these conversations. So yeah, I just think it's really important to normalize, because it will accelerate your growth, change the way you look at the world, and help you make more informed decisions. We're talking about succession planning. We're talking about taxes. We're talking about cash flow pipelines. We're talking about operations costs. Like, there's so many things that we talk about in our conversations, and none of us have all the answers, but we're able to inform each other and help each other with resources.
And that's what it boils down to is, when we hoard information and when we close off and when we gatekeep, I'm just like, what that that doesn't help you either, right? You the access to information, like the more people who have access, the better. And that's why FinLit exists, Black Moms Connection exists, to make sure that people have, the ability to share, connect, and on an authentic. And I think also too, like if you have never heard you speak before, but if you're just reading you on socials, it's just like, oh, she just sounds like a dope homegirl that, she's giving me the goods and she's giving it to me real. And I think that also resonates with folks too. Like it's authentic and you can tell. So just in terms of one of the things in particular that you've spoken about in the past is you're a big champion of using your employee salary to fund your entrepreneurial pursuits. Yesterday in one of our sessions, they called it a corporatepreneur. And I was just like, I kind of dig that. I kind of like that.
That's a vibe.
So tell us about your journey when you were, an employee, an entrepreneur, people telling you you can leave that job, just do your full-time entrepreneurship thing. And you were just like, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is mindset, right? Like I've always gone into many of my corporate jobs at my financial ceiling. Like I knew there was not going to be any raises. There probably wouldn't be any bonuses. I was very particular what spaces I was in because I knew that there was an end goal. So I think that's the first thing, right? Like people talk about, how hard it is to transition. Like choose a job, choose a work environment that will help you transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted a millennial driven environment. I wanted bosses who could act as mentors. I wanted an environment that fostered like opinions and ideas. I wanted unlimited PTO, right? And that is a thing. Like you just need to look for it, right? And I wanted the things that were important to me that would help me build my side hustle while I was in the job. The other thing I'll say is when I say mindset, here's what I mean. Your job may determine a salary, but you can determine your total income. And so I remember when my boss handed me my offer letter and it had 65K on it. And he was this white guy, so excited. And I'm like, I'm here as a favor to you. You cannot afford me. Right? Like you cannot afford me. The number on your offer letter is what the company can afford. It does not amount to your true value. Right?
Please write that down. Please.
I think that's very important. Very, very important. And so the other thing I'll say is I was a side hustler for 10 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't think that people stick to anything long enough to master their thing, whatever that is. And what I mean by that is to actually have a successful business, it requires talent. Like I need people to really understand that. And so that's why I have a really hard time with telling people to follow their passion, because just because you follow your passion doesn't mean you're actually good. And this is a competitive space. You have to be amazing, right? And so I want people to keep that in mind. But honestly, I'd be lying if I said that I had a tic-tac-toe method. But some of the areas of focus that I did make a priority was a few different things. So the problem that I wanted to solve, right? I see people, I don't want to call anyone out, but I see people with t-shirt lines, lash lines, cool, right? But I mean, to make the real bag, some of the most successful businesses in the world are drawn to problems. There are so many problems to tackle in the world, and you coming out with a t-shirt line like that makes
I mean, I love a t-shirt, but
let's be realistic here. And let's be self-aware, right? Like depending on what your goals are, your financial goals, a t-shirt line is not going to get you there. But what I'm saying is, some areas of focus is the problem that I was solving, my customer persona, right? Some of us are pursuing customers that have no money. That's why you're not making any, right? The other thing is a SWOT analysis.
So I told you she was going to hurt y'all's feelings because, golly.
Like, all of my clients are millionaires. That's it. I don't want to have issues when I send the invoice. That's it. Period. There's no discussion.
Right.
And so the other thing is, so customer persona, SWOT analysis, so your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. So taking stake of like, where do I fall in the market? Your blue ocean strategy. So make sure you write that down because there's 2 excellent books called Blue Ocean Strategy and Blue Ocean. I think the other one's Blue Ocean Shift. Excellent books, right? To figure out how you are going to cut through the noise. That's very important. The other area was marketing and sales. I think women, especially Black women, I think oftentimes we have a problem with self-promotion. And the last thing I'll say is experimentation. I think that's really important. Experimenting, like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. I can't tell you how many people come to me and they say, oh, this thing is not working. This plan is not working. How long have you been working on this plan? 6 weeks, 6 months. You don't have enough information to make an informed decision. What the hell are you talking about? Right? I think it's really important to be patient with yourself, right? I was experimenting for 10 years before I hit my tipping point. I'm not saying it's going to take you 10 years, but some of y'all are not even waiting 10 minutes, and that's annoying. No, seriously, some of you, like, it's a real issue. And then real quick, because I'm really passionate about this subject. The other thing I think is really important. So we talked about assessing your priorities. So the environment you work in, we talked about, or what I'll bring forward is asking a lot of questions. I remember I was sitting at my desk. My boss was on his way into his office. He calls me. He says, Pauleanna, can you download the sales report and read it to me? Girl, I couldn't even read the spreadsheet.
Oh, shoot.
I was out here on social media being a big boss, and I can't even read the spreadsheet. I can't even read through the numbers. Like, I was like, yo, I'm like, that was also a tipping point for me. Like, girl, get it together. Like, you can't be out here moving and shaking, and you can't. So I started raising my hand more often. What does that say? What is that acronym? You know, how do I read these figures? You know, I wanted to know everything. So I started to have one-on-ones with the department heads. I would say twice a year, 3 times a year, quick 20-minute coffee chat, because when you're an entrepreneur, you wear every single hat. So I wanted to learn, why are they in this position? What is the function? What is their role? How are they excelling, etc.? And then the other thing is get uncomfortable, put yourself in uncomfortable spaces. So volunteer for different committees and clubs, but also raise your hand to sit in meetings just to job shadow. Like, oftentimes, like, you can just sit in especially on these Zoom calls, you can just sit in the background. And I would sit in 3-4 hour strategy meetings because I wanted to learn how the senior leaders in my organization solved problems. The last thing I say is really identify what you don't know, right? Identify what you don't know. So making sure you're filling knowledge gaps. And the last two things, the two things that were most important to me before I transitioned was, one, paying off my debt as much as possible so I didn't have to worry about that when I took the leap. And the second thing is having a proven track record of sales. I could look back 1 year and the numbers were very clear that I knew how to sell. I think some of the biggest problems that arise in our businesses is that we're not asking for the sale, but also we don't even know how to sell, right? And so if you don't know how to sell, you're just simply not going to make any money. And we're taking these leaps of faith, right? We're taking these leaps of faith, but the reality is you need to know how to sell or hire someone who knows how to do it well.
Whew. Okay, so I'm gonna take.
It's my favorite topic, girl. I have to go.
I know this is why you saw I just sat here and let you go for a smooth 4 minutes, and I know it could take up another 40 on this particular topic alone, because I think you nailed it when you said, like, people just don't have the patience. People look at socials and they think everything's an overnight success. And I'm just like, most entrepreneurs, the two that we spoke with yesterday on our American stream and the two on the Canadian stream, most entrepreneurs, their story arc is 10 years. That is basically the average before you can pay yourself a regular salary, that you can start paying other people, that you have automated processes, etc. But everyone they want to stunt on the gram, they want to be a CEO. I'm like, you have no employees. How are you a CEO? Like, I need you to.
I can't.
I mean,
you don't payroll tax.
Like, do you have an accountant, but you're a CEO? Like, everyone they want to be Walmart overnight. And I'm just like, y'all, Walmart is like some, it started in like Arkansas, some random place in America. They didn't become a global conglomerate overnight. So I think it's just like the patience and putting a plan in place, and whether it's your financial plan, it's your entrepreneurial plan, your career plan, like, a plan is required, and asking questions. And one thing that you brought up about shadowing is just like, you have HR, you have an accounting department at work. Now you have access to these people for free to help you, like, oh, I don't understand how to read a sales chart, X, Y, and Z. So that when you do become an entrepreneur, you got training from someone for free. Actually, do you technically got paid? Because you were at work asking these questions. They don't need to know the why. They might just, oh, are you interested in sales? Yeah.
You're getting paid to go to business school. Hello. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I get it. Sometimes the job and you don't like these people and they don't like you and there's racism and there's microaggressions. Trust me, I
Yeah,
get
we've
it.
all gone through it. We've all
But
gone through it.
if you have plans for pursuits outside of it, use the ecosystem that you're literally getting paid to be in, and take advantage of it while you're there. So,
Mhm.
if you have all those things in place, it's easier to make the leap. But people are just like, I got a domain, I'm good. I'm just like, but do you have?
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit, I'm just like, and my friends yell at me all the time. I am terrible with sales. But someone told me, they're like, but you like telling stories, and that's what sales is. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dang it. I think it's reframing the mind shift. Like, I'm very much still stuck
Yeah.
in this whole salesperson mentality, client pursuit mentality. That's what sales is defined as. But I'm just like, I have redefining of my own work to do in terms of like leveling up. So I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to FinLit's for me,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly.
But
I love it.
we want everyone to be able to take things away from it. So you've been, an employee and a corporatepreneur, you've been a side hustler, you're an entrepreneur, what is like some things that now that and you're 10 years removed from it, that you would have done differently through your past, so that maybe your 10 years could have been 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I've done, paid attention to my numbers. I was definitely when you first launch your business, you kind of operate in organized chaos. Sometimes it's just chaos, no organization, and so
Yes.
yeah, like paying attention to my numbers, paying attention to what's going out, what's coming in, where it's coming from. Um, Not cutting corners. I think oftentimes we sacrifice quality on a lot of different things. It could be the money team, it could be, going to Fiverr, it could be, you know what I mean? So not sacrificing quality, doing the hard shit up front. So I delayed incorporating my business for years, right? So when you go jump on the phone with a lawyer, from the minute that invoice is disgusting, right? So I just delayed certain things because I didn't want to spend the money. I did not want to spend the money. And like, honestly, it's going to cost you so much more in the long run if you cut corners. So just don't. Um, and then the last thing is learning more about taxes. So corporate tax, personal tax, payroll tax, kicking my ass over the years. Like my taxes are equivalent to salaries. Like it's a lot. And so just instead of being hit with a 5-figure payment that's due tomorrow, putting things in place so that I can anticipate those large payouts, I think would have like really helped me with my cash flow early on.
Yeah, and I think like that's one thing, and we have to figure out how to, have the conversation and make it sexy for FinLit.
Mhm.
But taxes, like we know it's something that we can't avoid, but it's like one of those things that we do like this, and I'm just like, yo,
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
celebrities have we seen get caught up because they
Tax
were paying
liens,
attention
everything.
to their
Yeah.
taxes? Al Capone wasn't caught on murder and being a mob boss. He was caught on tax evasion. Like, if the government of America or Canada is going to pursue any one thing from you, it is the collection of taxes. Okay.
Hmm.
Cannot avoid it. You may have like the majority of the year where it's kind of invisible. And then when the tax bill comes, you're just like, oh shit. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think that we need to stop,
And they
being,
want their money.
they
Find
want
it.
the money, but also they will get it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
We just had a conversation about estate planning. I'm just like, they will still want taxes from you when you are dead.
Right.
Like, this is like legit. The government's not playing with y'all. Okay, we
No.
need roads and we need hospitals, so they need your taxes. Okay, so in terms of just entrepreneurship, like if you had to narrow down the one thing that
Hmm.
any potential entrepreneur needs to absolutely do, like before they publish, like, oh, okay, I just launched a new business, y'all, like before Instagram knows about their business, what is
Hmm.
the one thing that they should do?
Okay. This one's very hard because there's a lot of things, but
I
if I had
know.
to say one thing, I'm going to do 1 and 1B.
Okay. I'll allow it only because it's you.
Okay, first thing is understanding, and I'm going to take a page from Amanda Seales because I have been piggybacking on this for years. Understanding your self-worth versus your market value. Your self-worth, right? You look in the mirror, you big yourself up, you're confident, you're doing the things that make you feel good, right? In your mind, this is your lane, you know your shit. But the problem is the rest of the industry, your industry peers, your competition, your clients, potential clients, they don't know how good you are. They cannot read your mind. You haven't shown your receipts. There's no proven track record online, right? So your market value is really important. Let me give you an example. So as a journalist, I've been a journalist for 10 years, right? And so I started on a blog, then I moved to writing for newspapers, nationally published journalist, writing for newspapers across the country. And then I leapfrogged. So whereas some journalists, and this is no knock, this is just how I play my chess game. Some journalists will write for 10 different publications and get several different bylines. That's totally fine. I decided to leapfrog. I went straight for Forbes because I know, right? Whether you write for 10 or whether you write for the one, writing for Forbes has increased my market value tremendously.
Yep.
Right. And so there's just no question, right? Like they have they vet their writers, they work with quality writers. And so now as I grow my agency, right, that is one piece of the puzzle when I talk about my market value that plays into people literally paying me before I get off the consultation call. Do you understand? So like you really have to, a lot of us are head down, do the work. But if you have your head down and do the work, you don't understand the players on the board.
Yep.
And that's it. You have to do things that increase your market value so that people understand that you are who you say you are.
Again.
Oh wait, 1B.
Oh yes,
1B is just self-promotion. A lot of us are not making the money because we're simply not asking for the sale. We're not following up. I'm like a old school door-to-door salesman. Like I will follow up, I'll pick up the phone, I'll cold call, I'll follow up with you. Like just because they don't answer your one email doesn't mean that they're not going to answer email 4. Like sometimes circumstances change, life changes, their wallet changes. You know what I mean? Your follow-up game has to be strong, and also too your promotion game. Like there's an art to bragging, right? And so I don't think it's a negative. Number one, you are being a light to someone who's living in the dark. You're showing them the way. And number two, again, people cannot read your mind. They don't know your portfolio if you don't share it. So it's really up to you to make sure that you are taking the time to do that.
Woo, Lord. Gosh. I mean, even though I knew how this conversation was going to go, my feelings are hurt because you're talking to me. I've had that conversation with several of my friends. They're just like, planning one of the largest Black tech conferences in the continent, and people are like, "You did that?" And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Well, I mean, yeah, but." And I had in my defense, I had very valid reasons for why I was low key about it.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, then I missed out on the potential other clients who would have hired me just off of that. And I did get some clients who were just like, they didn't need to know anything else. They're just like, "Oh, you did that event?
Exactly.
Cool." And so I'm very yes, it's worked out somewhat in the past, but that's, if you're not every so often taking your head out of the sand, and saying like, "Oh, I'm here and this is what I do and here are my receipts," then people can't find you. They don't know to recommend you for jobs.
Exactly.
Most of the things, how I've survived through the pandemic has been mostly Black women saying, "Oh, Tanya would be dope for this. Tanya, you should speak at this. You should write this. You should plan this. You should do this." And I'm just like, well, all right then. And I'm very lucky. And I think to piggyback of what you just said, it's also building those relationships, because when someone puts your name in for something, now it's not just your name, it's theirs as well that you have to carry, right? If Pauleanna puts me up for something, I'm just like, well, I got to do this excellent, because it's not just Tanya Hayles, it's Pauleanna Reid on the line, because that person's going to go back to P and be like, who's this girl who wasn't on time, didn't answer emails? Now P's going to be in my text messages, be like, "You're fucking up my coins and my name," right? Everything in 2021 and beyond is about brand management, and your brand sometimes is just your name. And if people are not mentioning your name in rooms, it's because they don't trust that it's one that they can do and
Good
not,
point.
sacrifice their own reputation. So I got some gems of my own too,
Yeah, I
I'm looking
mean,
for
no,
gems along the way.
you're absolutely right. When we think of tennis, we think of Serena. We think of basketball, we think of Kobe, LeBron, Steph, right? If your name's not in the conversation when people are talking about your industry, then you have more work to do. You have more receipts to show us, and just stay the course. That's all it is. It's not a race either, because a lot of our OG mentors, right, who've been in the game for 30, 40 years, they started where we were. So it just takes time.
Yeah. And I think like also stop watching other people so hard. Like
Mhm.
it's one thing to be inspired and be like, you know what, I like what they're doing, and I'm constantly in this thing where it's just like competition versus collaborators. I'm like, not everyone that's doing something similar to you is a competitor. They
Mhm.
can be natural collaborators. It's why BMC is collaborating with Kijiji Moms. Kijiji Moms is an app for Black moms. And most people on the surface would be like, but wouldn't BMC want to do it? I'm just like, yeah, I don't have, they've invested the time and money that now
Yeah,
I don't have to do. I can
right,
just tell my moms to go to this app and it's a win-win for everybody. I'm like,
right,
there's no competition there. They're a natural collaborator. Find the people so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to put in the money and the time and the effort. Someone else has already done it. I don't need a BMC podcast. That's what Dem Black Mamas is for. Have at it. Listen to Black Moms talk about Black
yeah,
mom and all I have to do is promote it. I now have an app and a podcast, and I have to put in $0 and zero of the work. So I'm
smart.
just like, really have to think about what are you doing? What are other people doing who, if they might be doing it in the same way, but for different people, or they might be doing it in a different way to the same people, right? And I think just we need to stop thinking that like there's enough sunshine and money for everybody.
Absolutely,
So
I agree.
that's my soapbox moment. So this is one of my favorite topics. Income creep is when people start to spend more as they make more. So
Hmm.
you get so when you were 30, you were making 65K. And when we're young, we're like, oh my gosh, these 50s, 60s, 70s, that seems like so much money.
Then
Now
you realize it's like,
we are just like, oh gosh. Like I'm like, 65K. I'm less like, I'm like, I would do that for half a year, maybe. Like your mentality shifts as you get older and you build your receipts. So how do you, control your own like peak YOLOing when you start making more money?
I'm still working on that, right? I mean, I have a lot of expenses. I don't think people understand. Like, I have my operations and my payroll, and it's just like I have to try and be as conservative as possible because I got to make sure my staff is taken care of. That's really what it is. Like, I have a responsibility to other people. Not only that, my family, certain peers. Like, I do a lot of shit. But money is currency, money is energy, it moves. And, I always tell myself there's so much more where that came from. I try to live with an abundant mindset. And the other thing I'll say is, my very first check that I earned as a freelance writer back in December 2011, I still have it laminated on my wall. Right. I always remind myself where I started. And I operate with expectancy. I know that every phone call, text, email, any one of them can change your life at any moment. And so I operate with expectancy. Every time I open something, that is my $1 million phone call. That is my $1 million text or email. So for me, I try to be as conservative as possible, but I also understand that life is meant to be lived. Like, I really do try to enjoy the fruits of my labor because I've worked so hard to get here. So it's a struggle. I won't say that I've perfected it, but I'm doing the best that I can, and I have my money team to help when necessary.
Right. And I think like, that's the thing. We can't just work to hoard. Like what
Yeah,
good is the savings if you have holes in your shoes? Like no one wants that life.
I'm dead.
So, like truly, honestly, like it's about balance, It's just like
Mhm.
if you want the new Telfar, make sure that you have Telfar money set aside, right? If you want to
Yeah.
go to Bali, set aside Bali money. One of the things that I've learned in the past couple of years is really just in terms of, like you said, money mindset, and really just truly, I've said like I am not going to worry about money. It's going to find me when I need it, and that
Mhm.
literally has been the case in a pandemic that basically took my whole events planning department and went from, you know, six figures to zero in a short period of time, but I've still been able to maintain, and I've had such huge wins during the pandemic as well, and have been able to shift. And so I think it's really just knowing that money is a renewable resource, time is not. You can make more money. You can make money again. If you blow your savings because you're like, you know what, I want to upgrade my car. I've been putting money away. I want a Benz. Cool. Great. You know what I mean? And then you know that, but what I'm going to do is make sure I'm going to do this right after I land a new client, so that I can start replenishing that savings account. All you have to do is just have a plan and be balanced. We're never going to be the people who are going to tell you, you know, eat ramen noodles every day and crackers, because first of all, I don't eat noodles. So like, you have to still enjoy food. I'm just saying, you know, don't go to the keg every day of your life. Learn to cook steak yourself. Plus, it's like delicious. So what are some of your financial goals, like in terms of, you know, you work a lot. I see it. Like, I don't know how you have the energy, to be wholly honest. So what are some, you know, upcoming financial goals for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to have 6 figures in my emergency fund. I would like to be the first millionaire in my family. And I'm well on my way, and I'm really proud of that. And the last thing is maintaining my annual scholarship. So we're moving towards the 5th year, and so every year I award a few members of my tribe who are involved in New Girl on the Block and involved in my online community, and I pay for something that they need. It could be pertaining to their business, or it could be related to school. But I give a lot of the money that I make away because I know it's going to come back to me. And I think it's important to sow seeds into other people. Actually, one of my favorite things to do, there's a book that I love by Chris Guillebeau called The $100 Startup. Oftentimes what I'll do, if I'm meeting with a mentee, if I'm meeting with even a young stranger, a young adult, I will gift them the book and I'll plant $100 in them as a seed. And that's something I've been doing for years. And so I just feel like those of us who have it, we should share it. You know what I mean? It's not going to break our bank to plant a seed and sow a seed, and to really show someone that we see them and we believe in them.
I love that so much. And, you know, if you're not in the position to do that just yet, and always, like, with that caveat of the just yet, know that it really doesn't take much either. I have a really clear example. So I'm, you know, on Twitter, like I usually am. I see a friend of mine. She's a beauty editor at InStyle magazine. She's looking for a photographer in Los Angeles. I don't know a lot of people in LA, but I pay attention when I'm on my socials. And there's a Black woman. I've seen her promote herself. She's just like, the next time you're in LA, come book me for a photo shoot. And she'll put 4 of her pictures up in her link.
Yeah.
And tagged her in the post. And she said, thank you so much for tagging me. I'm like, girl, no problem.
Good.
Left it alone because I got things to do. Yesterday, I see that she booked the gig.
Yes.
She got to be a photographer for an InStyle magazine shoot.
Love
she doesn't
it.
know me. I don't even know her real name. I just know her as at 55 Bay, whatever. And now she has a credit in a major magazine.
Love
now
it.
Also my friends just like, oh, Tanya's paying attention to things, and I can rely on her to be like, girl, who do you know?
Exactly.
You don't need to know that person.
And it's so funny. I had dinner with that person, our mutual friend, last night.
I miss her so much. Tell her I say hi. But you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be, I think, again, it goes back to, it has to be you, right? So how can you, like, BMC is my way of doing what Pauleanna does, right? Like, it's doing this summit. It's creating the rent bank where people can apply for support with their rent or their mortgage. It's creating the emergency fund. It's making sure that what we do is going to have actual true impact on the lives of them and their children. I'm just like, that's my way, right? And that's going to be my legacy. Pauleanna's legacy is really, like she said, planting the seed and sowing this for other people. So, you know, your financial goals can include for, you know, providing for others. And there's different ways to do that. So any last remarks before I let you go and you can go gallivant the Big Apple?
Let's keep the lines of communication open. Those of you who are watching, I'm very accessible. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And the last thing I'll say is just trust in yourself. Trust the process. Believe in yourself. You will figure it out. None of us know what the hell we're doing. We're just trying our best.
Hashtag facts. Pauleanna, you know how much I adore you and admire you. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
You're very
And for the
welcome.
record, too, like, just because we're friends, like, I asked her if she was free. It got booked into her calendar. I asked her what her rate was. Like, don't get it twisted. This is still something like, I am a business. Pauleanna is a business. And, you know, don't take advantage of your friends either. Just asterisk too, like, if you're going to approach them about supporting you in your endeavors, be like, what is your rate to have a consult? And even if they say it's on the house, let them say it's on the house. Don't go to your friends expecting for them to be free, right?
Period.
They're businesses too. They have listen, my son is a size 8 now, like, he's in adult shoes. So
Tanya.
thank you so very much for
funny.
being here.
I love you. I love what you're building.
Oh, thank you so much. Make sure you follow her on the IGs and on the Twitters and read what she writes and share it and stalk her basically all over the internet and buy her book. Bye.